The episode opens with the narrator explaining how the seemingly unending war with the monsters began when the floating fortress appeared. However, the humans were able to develop a weapon called the Divine Artifact a year after the war broke out. This has been the humans' greatest weapon since then. Fighter D is then seen training to become a ranger. He feels tired already as he runs in circles. The recruiter keeps urging him to do his best if he wants to become a ranger. As he does this, he keeps thinking about the fact that the humans don't even realize that everything is just for a show. As he does this, he looks at one of the recruiters, who has funny hair, and this just disgusts him even further. Even with all the disgrace and backlash that he is getting, he is not ready to give up. He remembers the real reason that he infiltrated the enemy's stronghold in the first place. He is there to take down the Dragon Keepers who wiped out his bosses. Later on, he is seen talking to one of the HQ attendants, and this is when it dawns on him that he is presently not in the place where the Dragon Keepers stay. While he is talking about this, Sakurama and Suzukiri show up. While Suzukiri believes Fighter D is going to fail his entrance examinations, Sakurama is a big supporter, and he assures Fighter D that he is going to do well in his exams. Sakurama then hugs Fighter D really hard and close, causing his cheek to crack a little. Fighter D realizes that Suzukiri is looking intently at him, and he is scared that he has been discovered already. Apparently, dusters have fragile bodies that humans have. He is already expecting Suzukiri to call him out, but he is relieved when Suzukiri speaks out and suggests that they go out to eat. Fighter D cannot believe that he was not found out, and this just made him think more about how dumb humans are. With this, he is confident that he has finally sneaked into the Ranger Force. At the monster's fortress, they are busy having fun when Fighter G shows up to tell them that there is bad news. Out of nowhere, the Red Keeper and the Blue Keeper have come to visit the monsters. One of the fighters asks the Keepers why they are there. The Keepers then remind the Dusters that they had a truce and agreement. Since they had an agreement, he is surprised that one of the Dusters betrayed them. He asks the fighter if all of them are in on it, but the guy says no. The Blue Keeper then demands to see the traitor, but he is informed that Fighter D hasn't returned since yesterday's battle. Blue Keeper doesn't want to believe this, asking if they are covering for him or not. The guy quickly replies that they are innocent when it comes to this. Blue tells the Dusters that they are going to take responsibility for the event, but Red tells him not to push everything to them. On the other hand, Red doesn't want to push all the responsibility to them. He is aware that both groups were betrayed by Fighter D. Blue then tells them to let him know when Fighter D comes back to the fortress, and they all concur with this. Since they don't want a repeat of this, Red Keeper has brought two guys to come and stay in the fortress with the monsters. Their names are Aaron and Shinta, and they are from the Blue Squadron. Basically, they are setting up a Blue Squadron base on the fortress. The Dusters will now be taking orders from the two Blue Rangers that are with them. Red asks the guys if they are cool with this, and while everyone else accepts the deal, Fighter F gets angry about this. He talks about how the Keepers are not supposed to decide things on their own. The Dusters want their own privacy too, he says. Blue Keeper gets angry and knocks the guy's head off. He threatens to terminate Fighter F, but Fighter A jumps in and begs the guy not to. He assures him that they are going to do whatever he says. Red Keepers then reiterate the reason why they need to follow orders and make sure that whatever they are told is taken to. He warns them that disobeying them is going to lead to death, and there will be no mercy. Fighter F sees this and starts to think of staying low and living shame just so he can stay alive, but at the same time, he doesn't think this is the best life for him. On the other hand, Fighter D is with Suzukiri and Sakurama in a restaurant. He manages to get the hang of how to use a fork and knife while he is eating. Suzukiri then asks him if he really wants to know where the Keepers are staying. She lets him know that the Keepers are staying at their respective garrisons, and not the Rangers HQ, which is across the Amanogawa city. Sakurama then informs Fighter D that the Rangers' task is not only about fighting, but also about performing other civic duties in the city. Fighter D then accidentally spits it out that it is going to be bad if the people find out that the battles have all been fake. He thinks he is done for when he says this, but Suzukiri backs him up again, talking about the conspiracy videos that have been circulating around concerning this. Fighter D then starts to wonder if the two have no idea what is really happening. They are in the middle of this when a kid shows up and thanks them for saving humanity. He asks if he can take a picture with them, and they oblige. Sakurama then talks about how happy and proud he is that he is a member of the Ranger Force. Fighter D can now see why he is going to be proud too. They enjoy the best life possible, unlike the Dusters who are suffering in the fortress. Once they are done eating, Suzukiri tells Sakurama that they need to leave so that they can attend to their afternoon duties. As they stand up to leave, Suzukiri reveals that she is heading to the Red Garrison, and Fighter D immediately gets interested when he hears this. He calls the little boy, who is a fan of the Keepers, to show him the picture that he took with the Red Keeper. He looks deep into the picture, trying to get a better look at the guy's face. This triggers him and he starts to lose himself, causing dust to start removing from his face. The kid sees this, gets scared, and runs away. The waiter gets there, and he is surprised to see that Fighter D is still there. Fighter D manages to gain control of himself, and he thanks the waiter for the food. Later on, Fighter D changes his appearance to look like Sakurama so he can follow Suzukiri to the Red Squadron garrison. As they enter the garrison, he starts to feel uneasy, but he knows that he needs to stay calm if he is going to further his agenda. He has a knife in his pouch, and since Suzukiri is there to deliver a letter for the Red Keeper, Fighter D asks if he can do it on her behalf. Suzukiri accepts this, and she hands the letter over to him. As the door to the fort opens, Fighter D prepares himself to go after the Red Keeper and end him once he sets his eyes on him. The door opens, and Fighter D is shocked when he realizes that there are several people in the base who are wearing the red uniform, making it difficult for him to identify the real Red Keeper. Just then, they are stopped by a Red Ranger, who starts to give off an aura like he is the real deal. Fighter D dips his hand into his pouch with the intention of slicing the guy, but Suzukiri speaks from behind, telling the guy to stop picking on Fighter D. It turns out that the guy's name is Tokita, and he is still on the 3rd rank, which is nothing special. Tokita holds Fighter D's hand, asking him what he was trying to bring out of the pouch. Fighter D's hand starts to crack, and he is already scared that he is going to be exposed. As usual, Suzukiri takes his hand off, telling Tokita that it is bad for him to bully his juniors. She lets Tokita know that they are there to deliver a letter to the Red Keeper. Since Tokita can easily help them with this, he collects the letter and offers to deliver it. He then offers Suzukiri the chance to join the Red Squadron, but Suzukiri says she is fine just where she is. Tokita starts to boast about the termination of monsters and how it is considered a good feat. As he says this, Fighter D is visibly angry, but there is nothing he can do. He and Suzukiri start to leave the base, and even though he is hurt, there is nothing he can do. All he can do is keep calm and get the right opportunity. Just then, he sees a poster of the Red Keeper on the wall, and his name is Susei Akabane. At the same time, Susei enters the room, and Fighter D is shocked to see that the guy is just walking around without his mask. The situation immediately gets intense and awkward because Fighter D is basically standing in front of his most hated enemy. The Red Keeper is about to get suspicious when Suzukiri drags the guy away, talking about how he has always idolized the Red Keeper, but they need to leave. To make the scene more convincing and less suspicious, Fighter D tells the Red Keeper that he needs to be careful around the monsters because they have dirty tricks up their sleeves. Red Keeper thanks him and proceeds to where he was going before. When the two exit the base, Suzukiri asks Fighter D to hand her the knife he is hiding in his pouch. Suzukiri collects the knife and suddenly cuts Fighter D's neck. He falls to the ground and his disguise wears off immediately. He is shocked by this, and he asks Suzukiri how she found out that he is not who he claims to be. Suzukiri says Fighter D is very weak, and it is easy for people to find out that he is not who he claims to be. Fighter D tries to attack Suzukiri, but she easily cuts him down again. Surprisingly, Suzukiri comes close to Fighter D and tells him that she wants them to work together. She is open to teaching Fighter D how to destroy the Rangers. In short, Suzukiri wants her and Fighter D to work together. Just then, Sakurama shows up to tell Suzukiri that there is an emergency. A duster has shown up, and their help is needed to evacuate the civilians. Fighter D wonders why this is happening because it is not a Sunday. Sakurama leaves immediately after saying this. Suzukiri turns back to see that Fighter D has disappeared from the scene. It turns out that the duster who appeared is Fighter F, and the Rangers are already chasing him. Fighter D gets to the scene and starts to wonder why Fighter F is acting irrationally. Tokita fires a shot that takes F's head off, but it regrows as usual. Just then, the Red Keeper shows up, and he transforms into battle form. He tells everyone to stay back while he handles the situation. He takes out his divine artifact with the serious intention of ending Fighter F. He reminds him that he and the other monsters have been warned about betraying them. The divine artifact is the only true weapon that can end the monsters, and the Red Keeper uses this against Fighter F. As he is about to get blasted to his death, Fighter F doesn't seem to have a single regret about the decision he made. F gets burned to a crisp, and as his last essence disappears, he talks about how he finally feels good compared to the last 13 years that they have been fighting against the humans. Fighter D stands behind the crowd, watching his friend and comrade annihilate from the face of the earth. D's face burns with vengeance as the scene closes, leaving everything to the next episode.